I'm going to be sharing with you today a few insights that make a ton of difference of you living a life that you love, that you're passionate about, that's filled with joy and richness and abundance. And you live in a life you look back on, and even though you might have acquired a bunch of stuff, you don't like it that much. We're going to be talking about the difference between being rich versus being wealthy and what that looks like. But as we're waiting for just a few moments, I'm going to say hi and welcome to everyone as you are logging in. I'm checking over here. If you see me looking to the side, I'm just checking the comment section. Renee, like to see you. Christina, welcome. Hazel, welcome. Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ivy, welcome. As you're tuning in, as always, I'd love to know, number one, where in the world you're tuning in from. Number two, in the comment section, I'd love to know three things you're grateful for today. I'm always so curious to see where you are in the world when watching and what you're most grateful for. I'll start off and start moving through this conversation today. It's really simple. It's the difference between being rich and being wealthy. And so I always ask the question, have you ever wondered what it really means to be wealthy? Not just having a lot of money, that's great. But there was a perspective that was shared with me a while ago that profoundly changed my understanding of the concept. Um, I remember I was talking to a mentor of mine, and he shared in his experience, he says, there was a time in his life where he was growing his company and developing assets. And this guy had made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. In the process, his identity of who he believed he was as a human being got tied up in all the stuff, meaning he felt like he was enough, he was loved enough, he had accomplished enough, he had enough. And think about that real quick. What has to happen in your life for you to feel like you can answer yes to these three questions? And the questions are simple. I am enough, I have enough, and I'm loved enough. What has to happen in your life for you to feel like you are enough, you have enough, and you're loved enough? Most of us don't take time to think about that. So we're constantly chasing different experiences or people or situations or stuff, thinking if we finally get more, then we're going to finally feel full. It's interesting. If you take out a pen and paper and you just jot down the answer to those questions, you might be surprised at what you yourself think about those concepts. And so, really simple, he was telling me a story. And he said, he had developed hundreds of millions of dollars of assets. He was flying private. He was living all over the world, doing all the things that rich people do. He had all this stuff and all these things and all this freedom financially. But there was something that he started to notice over time. And truthfully, he didn't really notice it until life royally kicked him in the face. But there were hints. And I don't know if you've ever seen these hints. And the hints were, he'd gotten a fair amount of arguments with his spouse all the time. And, he would say, well, she just doesn't understand. If she wants to live a life like this, she's just going to have to figure it out. He'd say stuff like that. His kids would be frustrated with him, like, Dad, where are you? And he would say, I don't know why you're not grateful for the life you live because of all the hard work I put in. And, health wise, he kind of wasn't putting in the workouts and wasn't being as healthy. And he had this excuse of, well, I'm traveling so much and, on the road, it's hard to eat healthy. All these things that I've heard. And he was sharing, he's like, oh, guilty, 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 man. I used to say all that junk and I had all those excuses. And so he was traveling a bunch. His kids were frustrated with him. His wife was frustrated with him. Truthfully, he was frustrated with himself because he knew that he wasn't doing the important stuff. He really wasn't. And so he shared at that moment, something finally happened where, life burnt everything he had earned to the ground, and he landed up over $100 million in debt. He sent me this hilarious picture of a guy, basically drunk from the night before, laying on the ground with a bottle hanging out of him, with a cigarette in his mouth, looked like he just got whacked upside the head by life. And he goes, that was me at the 1980s. And he says, if I could pay a lesson forward, though, at that stage of his life, he thought being rich somehow had anything to do with being wealthy. And he said, if he learned anything, those are two very different concepts. Being rich is having a lot of money. Being wealthy is actually having a fulfilling life. And so I took that and I fiddled with it in a bit. And I just asked the question. I'm gonna ask the question real quick in the comment section. What does being wealthy mean to you? If you were truly wealthy, what does that mean to you? Now, I'll share from my experience what that means. It's not, and this guy looked at his life and he told me, he said his schedule was packed from first thing in the morning to last thing at night. And he was living by the credo of, you got to get up early in the morning and start your day with success and all this stuff. And so he was up first thing, and he wasn't spending any time with his kids or wife when he was up first thing in the morning. Instead, he was up first thing in the morning to put all his energy into getting ready to go to work. And then he'd work all day and he'd get home and be completely exhausted. And then by the time he was completely exhausted and he got home, he was too exhausted to be a good dad or to be a good husband. And so he was fall asleep and wake up and do it again. And this pattern went over and over again. And he says, you know what? It doesn't make any sense. And even though he understood this, let's say, emotionally in his head, or in his heart, let's say, his head still fought and said, well, if I don't show up and do what I've always done, there's no way we're going to be able to still succeed in life. And I've watched this pattern over and over and over again. And I sat down and I said, well, what would it mean to be truly wealthy? And I started off with kind of, I'd say, one of the more valuable resources. I said true wealth would have three parts. Number one, true wealth would have time freedom, the ability to spend your time doing what you love with the people who matter most to you. So I would say, imagine waking up on the day where you have the freedom to choose what activities you're going to do without the constant pressure of work, 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 work. And I look at that, and some people love work. I actually really enjoy the work I do. I had a longer conversation with one of my clients today, and he shared the most wonderful thing with me. At the end of the conversation, he said, I just want to take a moment and let you know that I value all the time you spend with us. I'm so grateful. He said, my life has completely transformed over the last, so many years of working with you. I'm a different human being, and that's priceless. You can't put a dollar sign on that. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better person because of the work we've done. And our business is moving in the right direction. And he said, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I told him, I said, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for wanting to do this work with me. This is my life's passion, my mission, my joy is doing this work with people. I love it. I do it for free. I oftentimes do. And I have the opportunity to call it a business, which is unbelievable. I mean, it's a gift that I'm so, so grateful for, this opportunity to do this work with people. And I look at that, and it reflects back to time freedom. How do we help people create that kind of time freedom in their life? I had a friend my dad interviewed a long time ago, and he said one of his major goals was to never have an alarm clock again in his life, to wake up whenever his body decides to wake up, and at that point, get up and go into the day, and to set up the right processes, the right systems, to build the right kind of business that gives him that freedom. And some people talk about this, and I always kind of go, And because I've seen people pitch this concept. That's why I got into this industry or that industry, because I get to decide my own hours. And then the reality under the hood is, if someone calls, you drop everything and go running. Nothing wrong with it. It's definitely a step in the right direction, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about whether he starts his day at 9 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. or 12 p.m., the amount of income he's earning doesn't change. It is set up, it's locked in. He's built out the right systems, dashboards, people, processes. He's done the right hiring. He's built the right team and organization that machine will run regardless if he's there or not. And that creates time freedom. Time freedom, where he wakes up and he gets to do what he wants to do, when he wants to do, with who he wants to do it, however often or much he wants to do it. Now, I'm not completely in that place in my life yet, but one of my greatest joys every week is my thought: if I'm going to wake up, work out, meditate, do my affirmations, incantations, become my absolute best self, then the first place I'm going to offer the best version of me is to the woman that I'm head over heels in love with. And so Monday morning at 9 a.m., the very first thing my wife and I do is have a date to start the week. I think there's no more important thing to do than invest it with the people you love most. Why would I spend all that energy becoming the strongest, happiest, healthiest, most fulfilled version of myself, completely energized, focused, determined, ready, and go give it away to strangers? Now, maybe my clients, because they're like family to me, but I'd rather give it to my wife. I'd rather have us take the best of what I have inside of me and share that together to start each week, instead of going and using that up all day and whatever leftover scraps are available of who I am, kind of offering that to her at the end of the day, hoping it's enough for our relationship to keep alive. Blah. I'd rather give her my best to start each week. So Monday and Friday mornings from 9 a.m. till noon, her and I go on dates. And it's one of the most important things we do. I think invest with the people you love most first and make everything else fit around it. And so, number one, do you have the time freedom to do that in your life? Have you created the space that allows you to invest your time with the people that matter to you most, doing the stuff you want to do? We go surfing, we go for hikes, we go for walks, we go for brunch, we do all kinds of stuff. But that's our time. And that's the very first place I put my time and thought and effort and heart and soul each week, is with my wife. What about you? Have you created that level of time freedom so that you can choose to start the week with the people you love the most, or end the week with the people you love the most? So that's number one, is time freedom. Number two, this one's important. Number two is you can have all the time in the world. And I don't know about you, but I've met people who have nothing on their calendar. Nothing, not a thing. And you can have all the time in the world, but then you get invited. And I'm like, hey, you have a bunch of free time. Why don't you come with us in September? My wife and I bought some land on a private game reserve in South Africa. We did last year. And we're taking a whole group with us in September to go on safari for, I think it's 6 or 7 days. So we're going to go hang out with the rhinos and see the elephants and see the giraffes and the zebras and the lions and the cheetahs. We're going to be roaming 26,000 acres of land with the big five roaming all around it. Why don't we spend a week just hanging out and building deeper relationships and friendships with each other? Let's go. And some people tell me one or two stories. Either time, I can't get away a whole week. Oh, geez, wow. So they don't have any time freedom. And that's not just people who are struggling. I got to work shoulder to shoulder with people who are multi-billionaires, who have companies that do hundreds of billions of dollars a year in sales, who have tens of thousands of people who work for them. I invite them to come do stuff like this, and they go, oh, geez, my schedule is so packed, I don't think I can make it. Like, you kidding me? I literally was working with someone last year, and I invited him. I said, hey, why don't you and I do something? If we're going to be working together, why don't we work on building some type of relationship and go do something together? Here, I'll sign us up for Harvard Business School. We'll go spend 3 weeks together with the best and brightest minds on earth in business. And you know, we'll study, we'll work out, we'll do all the things, and we'll just build a relationship. We'll spend 3 weeks there together. And he went, oh, 3 weeks. Geez, yeah, shoot. I don't think my schedule could make room for something like that. And I said, well, you certainly have number two, which we're going to get to in a second, which is financial freedom. But you kind of screwed up on number one. Why did you build this gigantic company and make all this money to land up being a slave to your own company? You have no freedom. You can't take 3 weeks and go learn something. No offense, my company's nowhere near the size of yours financially. I can take 3 weeks whenever I feel like it. What's the difference? I built mine from a mentor who taught me this with the intention of being able to have the time freedom there. So it doesn't magically appear when you make more money. I promise you. You have to decide to build this intentionally. And so I needed guidance. I needed someone who could show me how to build this properly so that I could create that kind of freedom in my life. It doesn't magically appear just because your business grows. If anything, you get more tangled in your business if you don't set it up right, even at the highest level. Second, financial freedom. So I invited those people. Why don't you come with us on safari in South Africa? It's this September, the 11th through the 16th. So far, I think we have 28 or something people coming with us, which I'm very excited about. And, most people say, okay, well, shoot, I do have the time. How much is it? It's a fair question. How much is it? How much does it cost to fly, from most people with us are in the United States? How much does it cost to fly to the other side of the world and to pay to stay at this place? Like, how much are you charging? I said, I'm not charging anything. If you're part of our community, you're welcome to come. If you're an active coaching client of mine, or you're in one of our business programs, or you're in the Core 4, you're more than welcome to come and join us. It's just a way for us to build relationship, to hang out, to have some fun, to go create memories that'll last a lifetime together. And so the next thing people say is, well, shit, I don't have the financial freedom to do that. And financial freedom isn't just having money, but it's having enough money that's coming in, ideally passively, to live the life you desire on your terms. It's about learning, how do you make the money work for you instead of you constantly working for the money? How do you set up a process? Yes, Danny's in New Zealand. She's going to be coming to South Africa with us too. But how do you make enough money and invest it properly so that it's making enough money, so that if you took a trip for P.S., my wife and I are going for August, September, and October. But if you could only make 5 or 7 days, it's great. It's a start. We used to do that too, go somewhere for a week. Now we can go somewhere for 3 months at a time. But if you can make it there for a week, then great. Do you have the finances to do that? And not just because you earned and saved and, made this one trip happen. But the reason we can go for 3 months at a time is we saved and saved and saved and saved and invested and saved and invested and saved and invest. My wife and I have one car. It's a Toyota 4Runner. I had a friend in a finance company I was working with the other day tell me, he's like, what car, or last year, he said, what car do you drive? I said, a 4Runner. He said, I wouldn't expect that. I said, what would you expect? He said, I don't know. I thought you'd have like a Range Rover or something. It's like, why would I waste the money? This is a silly waste of money. I could invest that money and cause that money to make me more money, and then take that money and cause it to make even more. And I started laughing, and he goes, good point. And I laughed. I said, we're very simple people. And I was talking to a friend and client today, and I said, as simple as this sounds, there's a board game out there called, what is it called? Cash Flow by Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And I said, we've built this by learning the very, very simple principles from the game Cash Flow. My wife and I used to play with friends every weekend. And then we just played the game in real life. We bought the properties and invested in the multifamily, and then invested in companies and invested in other assets. And now all of our assets yield enough to live the life we want to live and give us time freedom and financial freedom to some extent. And so I've learned there's 2 out of the 3 pieces. Do you have the time freedom to go do what you want to do? Second, do you have the financial freedom to do what you want to do? And the third, if you have all the time in the world and no money, well, that kind of sucks, because then you're just stuck sitting around. You can't really do anything. If you have all the money in the world but no time, that sucks too, because you have a bunch of money, but you can't really go enjoy it with the people you love or do anything worth doing. But if you have a ton of money and a ton of free time, but you're missing purpose, that leads to disaster. Disaster. And this is those Hollywood stories. The person who becomes super famous and makes millions or hundreds or billions of dollars. and they have nothing to focus on in their life. And they land up with, drugs and sex and all these bad habits. And they go into this spiral and start drinking and partying. One of them just got arrested the other day. I mean, this guy's world famous and he's arrested with all kinds of drugs and crap in his system. And I said, the only time I've seen people make choices like that is when they're lacking purpose. They don't have something they're connected to in their life. And again, people say, well, shoot, if I work hard enough and I make enough money, then I'll find something purposeful to do. I promise you, I was working with a client and friend, and his dad retired and was a multi-billionaire. And after a few weeks of retirement, playing golf and traveling and doing all the fun stuff, he had all the time in the world and all the money, the planes and the properties and the helicopters, everything else. And my friend called and he said, I'm really worried about my dad. I said, what's going on? And he said, he's just sitting around playing board games, drinking all day, talking about the will and when he dies. I said, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. I said, we got to help him find some purpose in life, find something more than himself to show up for every day. And so true wealth includes time freedom, financial freedom, and finding deep meaning and purpose in who you are and what you do. It's aligning your work and life with your core values, your passions. And it's getting to a point where you find something more than yourself to do it all for. When you get that connection, time freedom, financial freedom, and deep purpose and meaning in all that you do, life becomes very rich, very, very rich. You feel alive, you feel passionate, you feel purpose every single day, and you have the freedom to go do and experience life with the people you love the most and work on projects you really care about. You have the financial means to make a difference, not only in the people you love's lives, but also for the people and projects that matter to you most. And so, few things of what you could do from this. Number one, step back and answer the question, what is most important to you in life? Just take out a pen and paper. If you need help, I wrote a whole book that has a chapter dedicated to defining your life's values. The book's called Live It, Achieve Success by Living with Purpose. But sit down and identify, what are your life's values? What is most important to you in life? And then take your calendar and hold it up next to that list and figure out how much time you're actually spending each week in things and in projects with people that are most important to you. 2, invest in relationships. I was talking to clients today and we were showing, creating this clear path of how they can grow their business and get their finances in order and all this stuff. And they said, well, what do we do now? And I said, now that we're clear about what to do about the business and finance, love each other, romance each other, build that passion, that spark, that excitement when you see each other. Write each other love notes, take each other on dates, rub each other's feet, like romance a guy, romance a girl, fall in love head over heels every day with each other. Spend time becoming happy, healthy, strong, and fulfilled. It's going to take the same amount of time for the business to get to the place we want it to get. Why not spend the time head over heels in love? Why not spend the time becoming the happiest, healthiest, strongest version of yourself instead of sitting around stressing over, is it going to make it? Is it not? It'll make it. We have the right plan in place. Now take the time to really squeeze the juice out of that love and squeeze the juice out of getting yourself to be healthy and strong and happy and fulfilled. That's the magic. And so, number 3, if you've aligned your schedule with your values, if you're head over heels in love, hopefully you found that human. And if you're really, truly becoming the healthiest, happiest, strongest version of yourself, the final thing is find something more than yourself to do it all for. I have a friend, he's over in Uganda, and he's one of the richest people I know and wealthiest people I know. I qualify him in both, not because of the amount of money he has, just the aliveness, the passion, the purpose he has. He's a young man who's more or less adopted 20 young orphans who've lost their parents. And so I get little messages from him every day and the kids saying thank you. And we send them supplies and money and food and all the stuff they need. And the passion, the purpose, the aliveness you see in his eyes, the richness you see in his smile, because he's found something more than himself to do it for. And so I hope you take time to find something more than yourself to do it all for. Now, quick little commercial on the side. If you find this useful, can you invite someone, tag them in these videos to come check this out and learn with us? Two, if this content resonates with you, come and join us. Come and join us in one of our communities or programs. We'd love for you to come on safari with us in Africa this September. We'd love for you. If you're passionate and you want to be the coach, you want to be the speaker, you want to be the one up there motivating people, join Performance Coach University. Get the skills so you do it right and actually make a lasting difference in their life. If you're working on your health, your relationship, if you're working on becoming a better spouse, if you want to help navigating how to really build your financial well-being, come and join our Core 4 challenge. It's where we talk about health, wealth, relationships, and career every month and show people roadmaps of how to build that out. If you have a business, you want some guidance or insight on how to really effectively build it so that you're an owner, not just an operator, not just a guy with $1 billion company that has no time to go do anything else except for work. But if you want to build that company and actually have the freedom to spend with the people you love and go do the things you want to do. We have a business accelerator. We have a board program. I also take on a couple one-on-one clients from time to time. So if you find value in this and you connect with it anyway, just send me a direct message. I'd love to hop on a quick, 15-minute call with you, find out what's going on, and hopefully help offer whatever we have that can really support you and where you're at and what you're wanting to do. As always, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate y'all being here. Paul says, we are all truly wealthy when we find true love. That's true. Catherine says, you're a wealthy man. You share all your riches with others. Plus, it really sounds like you're an awesome listener who takes all the great information we share with others. Ah, hugs, Catherine. Thank you. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. I hope I have the chance to work with you in some of our programs or maybe even one-on-one coaching and consulting. As always, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to be doing these for the next 6 weeks. It's part of our commitment to reach out and support the community around us. I hope this was helpful. I hope you liked it. I'll see you tomorrow.